Hello there, my name's Card. I'm a long-time progressive community organiser and activist, and here on my YouTube page I like to make simple little videos talking about topics which interest me. To that end, you've probably picked up on the fact that, consciously or not, that every few years as we cycle through political topics to debate and discuss online, we land back on debating the impact and nature of false rape accusations. The reactionary line that false rape accusations are a massive problem that affects tons of innocent people is massively overblown and hysterical. But there's so much misinformation and disinformation floating around online that what often gets presented uncritically as the usual progressive line is also very flawed. I think it's due in large part to the fact that in online discourse, sensible, normal, middle-of-the-road thinking isn't all that incentivized. Plus, a large component of reactionary messaging on a topic like this is intentionally playing up the progressive line to be this hyperbolic stereotype of itself. Either way, you don't typically get to hear a lot of normal opinions on a topic like this. So today, I just wanted to briefly articulate what could be considered the normal, sensible take on the topic, in the faint hopes that someone who's unsatisfied with the sort of rhetoric they've heard online elsewhere about this might just hear something in this video that serves to articulate a good middle ground. First, if we're trying to find the sensible centre on the topic of false rape accusations, we do have to acknowledge that they do sometimes occur, and that they are unequivocally bad. But people fear-mongering from the position that they're common or that they go unchecked are in the wrong. And often they're usually doing so either because they just have some misogynistic tendencies they're not shy about expressing in the form of casting undue doubt about primarily women's reported experiences, or they're consciously trying to throw up something of a smokescreen around the concept of credible accusations, because frankly, lots of reactionary men think it was better when other men like them could get away with rape. But still, if we're going to acknowledge that some small amount of false rape accusations do exist, we shouldn't cede any ground to the people arguing in bad faith that they're particularly common or that big of a real problem. For one thing, most people, the overwhelming majority of people, are never the accused party in a real, substantiated rape accusation. That's just a fact. Furthermore, what amount of those real accusations which later get labelled false is well down in the low single-digit range, much lower than the falsehood rate on many other comparably bad violent crimes. And of that small percentage of accusations which gets written off as false, with respect to a large number of those claims, the term false could much more be fittingly swapped out for unproven or unprovable, because they're accusations which, despite their potential truthfulness, there just isn't a solid way of proving the claim, so we're just left with a he said, she said type situation. So already, false rape accusations are exceedingly rare. They're something most people certainly aren't going to have to deal with. And to that end, realistically, anyone getting wildly up in arms over them is almost certainly being pretty disingenuous to try and pretend that false accusations are rampant and destroying lots of people's lives. If that sort of person was being good faith about things, surely they would have just as harsh a condemnation ready for the fact that statistically, most actual rapists escape meaningful punishment, and a large chunk of rape victims don't come forward out of a fear of unwarranted social backlash or retribution from their rapist. Another thing I wanted to touch on is the way online reactionaries try to make a straw man caricature out of the progressive ideal of believing victims. Like they'll try to twist it into believe all victims uncritically. That's not what's being said. And the people trying to make out that it are again highly motivated to just be dishonest on the topic. What a slogan and an ethos like believe the victims actually means is that we ought to provide a receptive ear to the people who have to make rape accusations. That doesn't mean we just take their side without question. It doesn't mean we can't go through the process of weighing up and verifying their story. What it does mean is that we should allow the victims of rape to tell their story, and we don't all jump in from the outset assuming they're lying. It's correcting for the fact that the societal mindset of assuming everyone making such a claim is doing so falsely is the attitude that most rape victims, especially women, have had to deal with and put up with historically. Again, anyone coming at the subject in good faith shouldn't have a problem with the idea that we allow for all accusations to be heard and that we take them seriously. I also wanted to bring up the common reactionary claim that false rape accusations go uncaught or unpunished and end up ruining innocent people's lives, because I think you can very easily demonstrate that that's wrong just on the face of things too. Online, you might see people trying to convince you otherwise by posting montage images of lots of reported instances where someone has been punished for making a false rape accusation, as if to imply that it's a big problem that's happening all over the place. But I think that's just it. By definition, literally every instance of a serious false rape accusation you've ever possibly heard of has come to light. Literally all of them. You've never heard of an instance of someone getting away with falsely making such a claim, because to even hear about such a thing would be to prevent that from happening, in effect. Again, on the whole, in reality, false rape accusations are incredibly rare. But if anything, showing me a list of what few might be known only goes to show that we're evidently able to spot them if they do happen. One last talking point you often hear get brought up by internet reactionaries about false rape accusations is an appeal to punitive measures if they do happen. Online, it's pretty easy to find people that say stuff like anyone who makes a false rape accusation should be sentenced to the same punishment as a rapist would get. Now, regrettably, a large percentage of the people saying that sort of thing are doing so because of the misogynistic impulse to attack women, who they perceive to be behind the supposed epidemic of false rape accusations. But that's not to say that a real progressive, such as myself, is opposed to there being actual consequences for the hypothetical, rare, occasional, real false rape accusation. Again, firstly, I believe that false rape accusations are very exceedingly rare, and as it turns out, they get found out more often than not if they do happen. So I won't shy away from suggesting that there should be some sort of meaningful consequences for anyone who does maliciously accuse someone else of rape falsely. It's also worth noting that a very large part of what makes those few real false rape accusations so harmful is that they, more than anything else, contribute to the unwarranted stigma and backlash that affects people when they come forward with real accusations. So disincentivizing those few false rape accusations that might happen from being made would still be very, very beneficial across the board, even if we're not necessarily advocating a carceral punishment. The stereotypical progressive line you've likely heard online about the subject is flawed. But here's the thing. That progressive line isn't actually being espoused by progressives, but rather by reactionaries and other misogynists who want to paint us lefties as hysterical and anti-men. And basically everything I've said today is the real progressive line on false rape accusations that any real-world lefty would tell you. And I'd like to think it's a very sensible approach. It's just a shame we don't get to hear common sense takes about a lot of touchy topics like this all too often. Rape accusations are, by and large, truthful. It would also be very broadly good if we as a society took them more seriously. And that doesn't preclude us wanting a tough punishment for those who do make false accusations. Is that not a good middle ground to arrive at? It's just some thoughts I wanted to articulate. It might be of use to you if you ever want to explain your take to someone else. If you might want to hear more from me, feel free to subscribe to this YouTube page, or just take a look at my other videos. Either way, goodbye for now, and have a lovely day.